Hey, good evening, good afternoon, and wherever you are, welcome to the morning show. And what's in a story for you? Well, here I am, your Sensei Al Bob, your griot here. The story is something that you need to hear, right? And the storyteller needs to tell you, right? And so I haven't done a show in a couple of days, and that's good. And I'm going to probably do less and less shows until more people watch them, right? And I have over 2,000 shows. They're all extraordinarily slices of the moment. Now, the reason why you're going to have a truly miserable, shit sucking life from this moment on, unless you listen to the story. So, around here, we had this uh, terrible um, event, right? And here's one of so all the roads, the major roads, the state roads have been destroyed. And now the secondary roads, the farm roads, right? There's a lake there. And this road is never designed to be for tractor trailers, right? And it's getting eaten up. And after the cockroach gangster realtors laundering their drug money started doing that, oh, around the 17th, 2017, right? The road is like that. It's going to be like what it was back there for the whole freaking road. If this bridge would ever go out, everyone on this side of the county and state couldn't get into Tennessee. All of the tractor trailers, everything goes on this bridge. Like I said, the state road, the federal road is washed out at Elks Mills and Pogey and Trade. And so all of that traffic now drives on this. This is a early Saturday morning, but when it's a work day, this is a conga line of cars and trucks. Since the event, since September when the Hurricane Helene came through here and obliterated everything, the developers have bought up all the properties that the Pogey folk had, and they're rushing to build houses. All of the roads, these are secondary roads. These are farm roads. These aren't state roads. This is the shape that our roads are in all over. I mean, if I, took the time to stop at every inch of the roads, the 50 or so thousand miles of secondary and tertiary roads, this is what it looks like. The state and county have done nothing for 5 months. September, October, November, December, January, here it is, February. And that's because 321, which was the state federal road going north-south, got washed out. And the rich people, the developers, want it replaced with a 4-lane highway, which is going to cost $2 or $3 billion. And they'd much rather have their big trucks come up and down this road. Tractor trailers come up and down this road. Right? And someone who lives around here has just thrown some stone on the road up here. just kind of went and got some stone and threw it up here. Because this was like a deep chasm. It's like you went down into it and never came out. But this ain't fixing the road. You know? This ain't fixing the road. And these are the big trucks that are coming up and down this road. So I'm back at the community center, and they were getting ready to have a big party, right? Woo! And so they're all rushing around to have a big party. And that's what the community center is kind of gravitating into, no longer service to the community. I mean, I just showed that video to all the people on the board and the movers and shakers here who are getting ready for this big Valentine's party, which a Valentine's party is great. It's great to have a party. It's great to celebrate, right? And they just, everything is, kind of locked in, and they got the place, and everything's going fine. And we've been getting lots of finances. I've got a bunch of different entities writing grants for them, because these guys can't write grants with squat. And yet, when I had the guys from the universities, the medical school come here, and the sociology guys are going to be social workers, and the psychology guys are going to be psychologists, and the people who are going to be cultural historians. They all have departments both of the university, so they both came here. And when the Pokey folk were sleeping on the concrete, it was great. I had them come. And what was truly amazing was all of those kids, and even the teachers, they were so bourgeois, they could not relate to the dysfunction of the 12 or so people who I was babysitting, right? And they got upset. Dr. D, what you up to? So they're going to have a big Valentine party?
Yeah.
Yeah. You coming to it?
I don't know.
I'm back over in my little deep green, and you saw that road. All of the roads, dry run, deep and long dry run, 167, they all look like that. And because the majority of the people who drive on that, besides the people who are getting to work from Mountain City to Boone that don't go on 421,
Right.
but the majority of them is those tractor trailers that used to go on 321.
Right.
That's why that road is the way it is.
Right.
And have you seen those gigantic big black trucks that are taking the trees allegedly off the road?
No.
Really haven't seen those? I mean, there are hundreds of them. They're all over the place.
Right.
They got big black plywood walls. They go up about 20 feet.
Right.
And they got a crane at the end, and they pick stuff up.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
And they drive people off the side of the road.
Yeah. First time I saw them was down in either North Carolina or South Carolina on 26.
Right. But they're all over here now.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting, you know where the off of 167 the boat ramp is?
Uh-huh.
There is a developer, and they make it look like the state is doing it. And they bought that boat ramp, and they're building houses all the way along. If you're on the dry run side, right, and look over there, they're putting stone all the way in the lake, so it won't fall down, right?
Right.
And it's basically you can't go there. The people are going to buy the houses, but the sign makes it look like it's a nonprofit entity doing something for you.
Oh yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Oh yeah.
So that was a guy who grew up here, right? He doesn't see any of what I was just foretelling, right? Now I live in a place will be the last place to get going after because it is so covered. I mean, the main reason I took it is haunted, and it's not haunted. It is paranormally occupied. There's two gigantic energy ley lines that go right through it, and one of them is on top of the ground, not like 1,000 feet underground. And so anybody who has any angst goes off. I mean, I've been there 25 years, and everyone who showed up has zipped out of the neighborhood. They go out screaming. So, but it's like a nature preserve. So all the birds are actually come back. You must agree what you experienced was unique. Yeah, pretty much. Desire, Doctor, Master, Sufi, the bitten off, extraordinary, and likely correct and true. And, the dynamic of what, we live in a lying world, all our media is lying, and as, Mr. Goebbels said, because he went straight to the horse's mouth, he went to the Tavistock Institute in England and brought over to Germany some folks that could help with creating a 1984. And I played for you guys the 1984 movie that was made in the 60s or 70s. That was, it had to be in the 60s because London was still bombed out. And they basically used London as the, as the set, right? So, but I was talking to one of the scholastic folk, let's see. And he only wants to prove his point, right? So I told him that he should read, I just reread 1984. I said, "Did you ever read it?" He goes, "No." "Did you ever see the movie?" "No." And he goes, "I know what it's about. I don't need to read it." The beauty, and not the beauty, but the amazing thing of 1984 is a third of it, Winston is rewriting history. And a third of that book, 1984, is a dissertation on grammar and how to erase truth and how to erase, history. And that's what we're experiencing right now with Doge. They're not closing down anything. They're just unplugging the portals and operating systems. They're not defunding anything. They're not really firing anybody. They're just making it so they can't do their job. And then they have that fork in the road. Anybody who quits, will get paid and have benefits up until September. Well, Donald Trump used to do that all the time. About 40,000 people have signed on for that. There's 2 million federal workers. And basically, what's his name wants to fire, Mr. Doge wants to fire 200,000 and put 200,000 of the mega kids in those positions so they can control everything of the government and just take it away. Just not, fund it any more than what it is and let it die on the vine, right? So I talked to this guy. He's supposed to be really in the know. Here, couches. Oh, I see it. There's some chairs. Go get a truck. Take it away. Just leave my couch. You can't take my bed.
The car I brought today.
Yeah, I know you couldn't get today. All right, come right here.
I'll not be able to.
Do.
Very good for work on them. That's what I was looking right now.
Yeah, there's hundreds right there.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So you having a Valentine's party?
Yep,
Tomorrow. After church?
Yep.
What time?
Soon as I get over here.
Oh, so like about 1 till
12:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
So will I be able to go out that door?
yeah.
Take care of you, son.
Do what you do.
He talks about a singular subject. Right? He doesn't, like me, bounce all over the universe. You would like this. He just talks about what he's talking about. And knickknacks and books, and he got me. I was a reader at that time, but I really got to be a reader by just listening to what she said about books. And then what's really blew my mind was that to do that. Because they're constantly doing stuff. I mean, they put something up like every hour or something, and that's another great thing. Every time, oh, no, not offhand. I don't have the internet. I don't have the internet. Professor? Like I said, he doesn't get interviewed. He speaks to subject matter, and he has got a bald head. He wears glasses. He's lit from below, so he's got king over other people's property. They always
the guys who want what the Palestinians have make sure they scream the loudest about it.
Right, exactly. So they portray
And
them.
you don't have what you do not have is Palestinians who say, "Wait a minute, we got to rethink the situation we're in here, and we've got to be careful about how we're proceeding."
Well,
you don't get that.
But see, the thing is, right now, last 15 months, not too many Palestinians have been throwing stones at Jews.
And what point are you making now?
Well, for 15 months, more than 200,000 Palestinians have been genocided, and another 2-point-something million people have been ethnically cleansed.
Well, if
from
they
their
throw a
land.
rock now, they get shot with a sniper.
Hey, buddy.
But they don't even,
So,
the last 15 months, they haven't been, the only people
my,
who've been attacking
I'm an
Israelis have
right?
been
But
Hezbollah.
I heard a friend of mine.
And they have only gone after
I've talked to a bunch of people who are scholastics, right? They don't even read books. If I can't describe it to them in 10 words or less, yes, they're too busy, right?
Yeah.
If I can't send them just this little clip of the YouTube, they don't want to see it, right? Your kids have to start reading. Reading opens up a part of your brain that if they don't do it, they're going to be lost. That's why they're obese. That's why you got to get them from the cafeteria to do, suicides.
They're obese.
and looking at their phones, right? They're not really thinking about anything.
Okay, they have been throwing stones. They've been using rifles.
That's what I just said. But in a military way, I mean, Israel has invaded and attacked them and genocided more than 200,000 people.
You're not coming to terms with the basic point I made.
No, I agree with the basic point you made that the Palestinians for the last 20 years, since they've truly been put into a fenced-in prison, basically has been pissed off, and the only representation of their anger and frustration has been able to throw a rock over the fence at the Israelis.
No, the basic point I'm making is the Israelis say these guys don't learn their lessons.
But that's only
one way to deal with it.
the Palestinians, a good portion of them, the majority of them have learned that lesson, and they have been going to school. They have been having businesses. They've been having a life in prison. It's a handful of folk who have been throwing the stones. A handful. No more than, I would say, no more than 200 a year were doing that. I would say no more than 200 Israelis have been hit with a stone or knifed in the year of 2023.
Oh, I think you're probably right there because now they're shooting on sight.
Yes. So,
The bottom line is this has always been about the Zionist state wanting the greater Israel. And they've manipulated the narrative and used the frustration of the Muslim Palestinians to further that vision of all Palestinians being less than human, and so we can kill them all. But they don't understand. But this is a very interesting thing, is that because the Palestinians haven't rolled over and they've taken it, Israel had to step up the horrificness of that militarization of the machine to kill. And they have, like I said, over 200, they say 48,000, 50,000. That's the only ones they got bodies. But once they clean that place up, they're going to find about 200,000 to 300,000 Palestinians are dead, right? And they have close to 250,000 children missing more than one arm or leg. So that's right there.
I'm not quite. I understand that's true, but what is the point you're making?
Point is, there's a cost to that, and that cost is going to be to the psyche of the Israelis and to the psyche of Israel as a country. And Israel will never be able to get over this and will collapse and be destroyed by their own hand within a number of years.
Have you seen Peter Beinart's interviews?
No. I may have. What is he saying?
We just wrote a book about 3 weeks ago since it's come out, and he's been interviewed on about 9 or 10 different places. He was on Democracy Now! The day before yesterday.
Okay, I heard that guy. Yep.
He's basically talking about how Jews are out of control,
Right.
and are bringing the house down on themselves.
Yep.
And he's a pretty sharp guy.
And he is Jewish himself, right?
Right.
So I did hear him, and he talks about, because he's probably 50 or 60 years old, the way he was talking, because he said...
He's about 40,
okay.
38,
But
40.
he was saying that when he was a child, he thought the same way the Zionists, that he had that propaganda inside him. And he said it's not just in Israel. It's the Jews. He said some of the hardest Zionists are the American Jews, right? And he said that's part of the problem of what's going on in Israel is the American Jews. And he said that the American Jews that go to Israel usually go to the West Bank and go steal some land and are ready to fight. The majority of those guys are the American Jews that feel super duper strong Zionism. And what's another interesting thing about Israel, it's supposed to be a Jewish state, right? Have you ever read their constitution? Well, they don't really have a constitution, but their independence document, describing what Israel is. Did you ever read that? It says it's going to be what is it when you're a country and you're not any specific religion? What do they call that?
Secular.
Secular. It says Israel is going to be a secular state, meaning you can be any religion. But to be a citizen of Israel, you have to be a Zionist.
Right.
You don't have to be
In other
Jewish.
words, you cannot be against the survival
Right.
of the state.
You have to be a Zionist. You can be a Protestant. You could be a Muslim. I mean, there are a bunch of Muslims in Israel, but they all have to be a Zionist. So every time they constantly talking about a Jewish state, a state for Jews, it's not. It's a state for Zionists. I never hear anyone make that point.
Right.
And that's probably a really important point. Because that's why this war is going on.
There are several people making that point, but he's certainly what's interesting is he wrote this book, and everybody wants to interview him.
Right.
I mean, it's a phenomenon that basically what's happening is that most people are fed up with the Israelis, and you can't really come out and say you're fed up with them, but what you can do is you can interview this guy who wrote a book who's criticizing him.
Right. And he's Jewish, so he can say it. And not only is he Jewish, because I listened to that show, and you know, when I listen to the radio, I record it so I can listen to it again and again and again, right? And I kind of, you know, I have X amount of memory, and so I don't always keep it, but certain things I keep, and that was one thing. So I recorded that the other day, and I've listened to it a couple of times, and yes, he is quite the astounding, you know, he really touched all the points. I really loved what he talked about the young Jews who were, you know, in colleges in America and having their little camps, and that the colleges lost their shit and arrested the kids. And, you know, there were a whole bunch of these kids who were about to graduate from places like Columbia and Harvard and all those places, and they kicked them out. So they didn't get their diploma. And they're all suing those schools now.
And you know why they're doing that? I mean, the fundamental dynamic is the school, the government is saying they're jihadists.
Right.
Okay, what they're saying is that when they say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, they're meaning free of Jews. They're actually calling for the annihilation of the Jews.
But if you add, but half the people who are doing that are Jewish. Half the kids who were in those college camps were Jewish. Half.
What I would say to that is, that's correct, but the Jews are not calling from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, because they're smart enough to understand that it's a losing statement. But anyway, Palestinians, and this is a critical point, they do not have the intellectual background enough to say that to each other.
You believe this guy?
They do not correct it so that the students are safe.
On this earth.
They act like they don't have to correct it.
So
they don't mean that.
So what, you know, when you this is something that I think is almost your central raison d'etre about this point, right?
Well, I would say it differently. I would say, what the fuck? Can't they figure this one out? If they can't figure this one out, what are they going to figure out?
Well,
I mean, if we're just jumping ahead here, we just had Trump here with Netanyahu for the second time put the idea of a one-state solution on the table, and nobody picks up on it.
Yeah, but he didn't say, he said, get rid of the Palestinians, and America is going to own the Gaza Strip. That's what he said.
You're telling me he didn't put the one state on the table?
No.
Well, he did.
No, he didn't. He said that we were going to own the Gaza Strip and get rid of the Palestinians. That's what he said. Go listen to it. We'll find them a nice place. We'll get them out. We'll move them out. We'll put them in a really nice place. They'll be really happy. They'll be safe. We're gonna put them all over the place. They'll be good. We'll get them a job. It'll be great. But we're going. He said America is going to own the Gaza Strip and develop it as a.
Oh, God damn it! I mean. You got to be able to read between the lines.
But it couldn't be any more clear. He said, he didn't say, oh, this is one. No, he said, way we're going to deal with this, we're going to move all these people out to other places away from here. And America, is going to own the Gaza Strip. When you
build a freeway,
yes,
everybody in the path of the freeway has to move. You can't have one guy saying, I'm not going to move.
That has happened.
But you can't have that.
It has happened.
You cannot have the overall, that's where Trump was coming from.
But he
He was saying if you're going to clear this area, there's
go
a good way to do it.
you know, before you
And
get really stuck in this, go and listen. Go online and listen to what he said. He goes, America is going to own the Gaza Strip and develop it. We're going to
I
control
know
it.
he said that. I know he said that.
So that is like straight up what he, you know, that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, but it wasn't straight up.
He's a real estate developer. He's going to put his name on every building there.
All right. Well, I'm just telling you, I think you're not reading between the lines. I understand where you're coming from. You're coming from where most people are. But I think you're missing the boat.
Well, what I really think happened there, because that was so ridiculous, is that what this actually did was it saved Bibi's buns for the time being. So his whack job.
See, I disagree with that 100%.
Really?
Haaretz reported that Bibi didn't get a thing he wanted. I think what happened was Trump neutered Bibi.
So why was he smiling like a Cheshire cat?
He wasn't.
Look at it. Go back and
Well,
look at it.
he wasn't smiling in approval. He was smiling. What would you expect him to do? Frown?
Well,
Would you expect him to be up there frowning and get flipping Trump the bird?
I would think if he wasn't happy with what he was getting, he would have.
He wasn't happy.
He would.
I can guarantee he was not happy.
He would
For Trump,
look. Enough of that, right? Because I just played it to give you a sensibility of that is what the academic world is saying, right? They don't have a clue. They think they're so smart. You know, oh, you can't read between the lines. This guy, Donald, is truly amazing. He's transactual. Yes, he has this little thing of shock and awe, but he basically says what, you know, when he said, oh, you know, after you vote me in, you won't have to, and he didn't even say that. He said, once I'm president, you'll never have to vote again, you know? And then I don't know, I don't want to spend the time looking for it, but I tried to explain to this guy why 1984 was important. And 1984 is important because it describes, you know, it's a short book. It's no more than 200 pages plus, right? And there's our character, Winston, whose job it is to rewrite history on the fly. And he's really brilliant kind of guy, and he works in the Ministry of Truth, meaning he lies all the time, right? He rewrites truth. And basically, Big Brother said, those who control the past define the future, right? And that's where we're going at it right now. Right? So if you go, I suggest everyone go read 1984. And a third of it, what I really love about it is there is a person who works in a similar part of the establishment of the bureaucracy of Big Brother. And they're talking about, oh, I'm writing the new dictionary, right? And he's saying, oh, you know, within 10 years, this whole part of existence won't be existing because we will have gotten rid of the words to describe it. And that's what basically Elon Musk is doing. He's going into the IRS. He's going into, you know, the AID. He's going into the Energy Department. He's going into HHS and HHR. And he's not changing anything. He's not firing people. He's not, but he is unplugging the servers. So nobody who works there can access anything on the websites, and nobody like me, I lost my health care. Just it got unplugged. Sorry. Now I can deal with that, you know, because I have other people to take care of me rather than my prime. But I don't have a general practitioner anymore, you know. I have other people who can take care of me, and that's fine. But that's me. You know, I wear these magic sunglasses. You know, I can pretty much navigate anything, but the rest of America can't. And one reason why I got rid of everything I owned and clamped it down to just living out in the forest in the deep green, because 320 days of the year, it's great there. It's like being in heaven. Yeah, 40 to 60 days of the year, it's winter, and maybe 10 to 20 days, it's ridiculously cold, like it was the last 3 weeks, right? During the day, it was -8, and it was -40 at night. And with the wind chill, it was like, that's why I was sleeping on concrete. This is what I was sleeping on. I was sleeping in that bed, which was truly like sleeping on concrete. I mean, it really did all my joints in. The last 3 nights I've slept in the deep green in my little bed, and it's so much nicer. So, and the commode is just 3 feet. Here it's like on the other side of the building, right? So people they have been so ameliorated to convenience and comfort. They're going to, I would say half this time next year, at least 1 billion people are going to be dead. AID, one of the major, I'm glad that AID got zipped, because the 3Ds, AID, defense, and the State Department, they are all military entities that basically precipitate war and disruption of governments, and they get people addicted to aid. There's this stuff that they like right now in Africa. Starvation is coming because of wars. Darfur and in the LZA, those 4 countries in the middle that have all the oil and gold and diamonds and rare earth are fighting it out, killing all the people. They're doing the same thing that Israel is doing in the Gaza, just getting rid of them so they can have all the stuff and not worry about having to give it to the folk or having a government. They can be in a disrupted lane forever, run by, and that's what fascism is. And that's what's coming to America, right? Because already, you heard me talking to the Hispanic guy, and basically, all of the Hispanics work in like all the food processing plants that are in North Carolina along the Tennessee border, right? And because there are a lot of farms here and there, and it's like Mexico and America, and it like goes across the border. Well, all those people worked in there have left. They're hiding up in the woods, waiting to see what's going to happen, right? And that place, that's called Gitmo, and they're setting it up for 30,000. Go take a look at Google, and see what that part of Cuba that the United States has as a military base. It's humongous. It's miles, right, square, and it's open. Where they're going to put the 30,000 people, they could put 3 million people there if they stacked them up like Israel did in the Gaza Strip. Right? And so the people who are going to end up there are not just illegal aliens. It will be people that the new order considers not appropriate, right? And most people think, oh, that's not me, Anyway, that's why I live out in the middle of nowhere. That's why I live on $400 a month. That's why 300 days of the year, I don't even need money. I can just eat, dandelions and burdock and mushrooms from the forest, right? And that's what I've been doing the last 7 years. So, good. And I'm, I'm old. There he is, the man, the myth, the Richard. So how are we doing with our consumption of fuel? Okay. Anyway, what can I say? Um, so we're in, why did Jesus, I'm going to make a real hard right turn here. Why did Jesus have 12 disciples? Right? Why? Because there are 12 zodiac signs in the horoscope. Why are there 12 tribes of the Hebrew nations? Because there are 12 zodiac signs, and each of those nations are represented by a caricature of the zodiac. Why, when the Moses came down with the Ten Commandments and the guys were making the golden calf, right? Why? Because that was the sign of Judaism, the calf, the bull, Taurus, right? And they left Egypt, and that's why they had the gold on it, but it was Taurus, right? And that was one of the tribes. And it was why is the Jewish sacrament, the holy day, starts at night. Why? Because Moses actually, the Hebrew nation and Moses, basically their God was the moon, right? Whereas the Egyptians, the Mesopotamians, the Greeks, the Romans, their gods were sun, right? Because during the day, when the sun is out, back in the day, it was safe for humans to run around, right? At night, no, that's when the predators came out. They could see at night, humans couldn't. I mean, there's a guy named Jordan Maxwell. Go look him up on the internet. He has some pretty, for years, I've known Jordan since the 90s, right? And Jordan he's me on steroids, because he's about 10 or 15 years older than me. And he's been at it longer, so he got to know lots of people. So what's where are we at? 20%? Oh, well, the warm days have been good to us.
Yes.
So do you know what circuit breaker? Because these suckers run 24/7 and there's no heat going to them.
I don't know. I guess they're just an air circulator.
No, that's a radiator. When it would bang, when the steam would go through it, yeah, man, no, it got this room hot.
Huh.
But for some reason, that valve either got stuck closed or whatever. But it's no matter where I put that thermostat, like high or low,
Yeah.
it just keeps that sound you're hearing.
Yeah.
It's the refrigerator, but it's also this guy run. They both run, so they got to be on a circuit breaker someplace.
Yeah.
And I looked at that panel and that panel and that panel, and nothing is labeled. One day, you and I, with the little tester, will have to go through and label those.
Yeah.
I can't do it by myself because I'm basically crippled,
Yeah.
But if you were, is that going on and off, and you yell yes or no,
Yeah.
we could do that.
I know they permanently unhooked the kitchen, so I don't know what they've done.
I would say these guys are either there's two panels in the kitchen. The really old one, right?
Yeah, when they unhooked it in there, they may have hooked these up.
I think that because the secondary, when they put that washing machine in, they put another panel because it has heaters.
Yeah.
So they have a 100 amp coming from that old panel over there to that guy to heat those heaters. And I would say I see a piece of pipe coming through that wall from that panel. So I would bet almost even Steven that those breakers, but none of them are labeled.
Whole place is like it.
I know that's one day you and I'll do you have a walkie-talkie? I do. I have some little FM ones that would work fine. So one day we do that. Okay. So that's what I do. I keep seeing things because that sucker runs continuously the bearings will burn out and cause a fire and burn the place down, right? Just like there's a light on the outside that just flickers, it's flickering. It's like doing Morse code. What that means is in a junction box somewhere, there's two wires doing this. And I keep telling people, hey, we got to figure this out. But I can't do this by myself. Even when I could run around, I always had a helper. So, but people, yeah. And I don't care. This place could burn down. Meaning, 5 years before this was still a school, I said, the rich people are gonna close all these schools down and force everyone to go to the big jail in town. And oh, that's never gonna happen. But it did, right? How long have we been going? 48 minutes. What time is it now? Oh, I'm running out of juice. Well, I don't know, but next I will communicate with you, maybe soon, maybe later, who knows. But I think I'm gonna jag off right now. And let's see, what have you been saying? What degree, what you experience, what's unique? Yes, pretty much, yes. My life is, but that's because I was awake. I was conscious, and early on, like as far back as I can remember, like 2 or 3. I mean, I can remember being breastfed on Mamo. I can remember being in the crib with M. We shared. That's why Mamo fed me, because she had a baby girl, and I, for the first 2 years, Grandma didn't take care of me. Mamo did. The black lady who lived above my grandmother, right? And I was brought up like a black little baby, right? And so I learned how to speak that, and but I, pretty much once I could walk from Mamo's place down to Grandma's place, right? And during the day, Mamo had to work. Grandma kind of looked after the babies, right? And once we could all walk, we go to Central Park, we go to the museums. New York City was great. All the museums were free. The libraries, everything was totally accessible, right? It was all for the people. And it was really, 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 because it kept the people reading books and happy and good employees and good factory workers. And now they don't care because they're going to be relatively soon replaced. They're already being replaced. I have a friend who works for a company that works for Cargill / Kroger's, and the two major, companies that process food for America. There he is, the man, the myth. He's back. So listen, one day, sooner rather than that, I'd love that table and a couple of those metal chairs. Can we bring them over to throw them in the back of your pickup truck? Yes, bring it up with the supervisor. Oh, and the other thing, JR, these things never stopped running. And I talked Rick about this, right? And I went to figure out which circuit breaker turned them on and off. None of them are labeled, right? One of these days, you and me, or me and Rick, have to go around and label all this stuff, because if this thing keeps running 24/7, bearing's going to burn out, going to catch fire and burn a place down.
Plus it's hot hour.
Yep. See, that's the head guy, and went in one ear, out the other, right? And that's what I do. I keep bringing up certain things, and like this place, I kept saying, we got to take this place. We got to, we have to start writing letters. We have to, organize. We have to, right? And they didn't do anything until, and I went around and there were 4 richest people in this county who weren't cockroaches from Texas. And because around 2015, a lot of Texans started showing up, and they were all real estate, property, equity lawyers, right? And so they were coming up, buying up large, not gigantic tracts, but 100 acres here, 60 acres along the lake, stuff, like what I call cornerstone properties, right? and they would, I would say, from 15 until 20, or 19, from 15 to 19, they probably that there were about 50 of them. I mean, first it was 4 or 5, and then 10, and then 20, and then there were about 50, and they all kind of knew each other. They all came from Texas, or from Florida, or from New Jersey, but they all knew each other, right? And they got really super valuable things. They kind of leveraged people. Like this one old lady who I knew who had, her husband died, left her some money. Um, they lived in Missouri or someplace, but he had people here. So she got, like, I don't know, maybe close to $1 million from, her husband dying, and, some stock and this and that. And she got the 300 acres that were on top of a mountain that looked down over the lake. I mean, beautiful, 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 beautiful. And there was a really nice little, old family thing with a nice little farm that was on top of the mountain, maybe about 10, 15 acres that was cleared. It was beautiful, right? And she moved into that house, and then she built herself a really nice log cabin, maybe, 2,000, 2,500, maybe 3,000 square feet, had a big living room, a beautiful dining room, a kitchen off to that, a big, beautiful, glassed in deck that had a fireplace that looked right down through the mountains. And the front of the house looked straight down into the lake. It was just amazingly beautiful. And she kind of, on the ground floor, on the other side of the living room, it was like, a little apartment, a bedroom, nice bathroom, a nice sitting room, a little library, a little kind of kitchen off the library that, where you could just have a snack, not a big, big kitchen. And there was that. And she kind of lived in that. And it was like 5 big bedrooms upstairs. Each had their own bath right in there, like a suite, master suite. And she would rent those out as an Airbnb, right? And she did it before Airbnbs, so she called a bed and breakfast, and she would give them, a nice little breakfast in the kitchen. And she was a baker, so she'd bake up stuff and have nice little scrambled eggs and a little hot plate with sausages, scrambled eggs, and potatoes, and biscuits and gravy, and people could get that. And she would charge. I remember when I first stayed there, was $35 a night, which was, that was first time I stayed there. Maybe it was 2005. I had already bought my little square, and I had another thing on top of Flag Pond, right on the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, right near Madison. Right. So anyway, she was a good bud, and I would fix stuff, and that's where I ran into my bud, who I had known for years but never knew. And that's a whole nother story. And he's the guy. We went camping over near Mount Mitchell, and there is a waterfall there, one of the highest waterfalls in the northeast of, in the east side of the United States. And right where the waterfall hits the river, and it's a feeder to the Nolichucky. It has a cave right behind you. Walk through the waterfall into the cave, and that's where we met a family of Bigfoots, of Sasquatch, right? And so, I'm getting down the red line, 12% left, so I got to go. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to go charge up my laptop.